Stellar Blade is one of the most anticipated games of the year. Its intense action combat, its gorgeous character designs, and its beautiful music has everyone enthralled with this game. Recently, we got even more information about this title, as well as a massive leak that happened over the weekend, revealing a demo coming soon. So if you love Stellar Blade, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because this channel is your #1 news hub for the game. And today we got a load of brand new information. Again, starting with the elephant in the room. This past weekend, a demo accidentally dropped for Stellar Blade. It was not meant to be released, however, it was uploaded to PSN in preparation for an eventual launch. The demo was likely scheduled to publish at a different date. However, it seems like the wrong date was likely inputted, leading it to publish on Sony's storefront ahead of time. While some people were able to successfully play the demo, Sony was able to remove it from the store within 30 minutes. And they were able to do something that left people terrified for the future. They were able to revoke a digital license for the demo, meaning that even if you already downloaded it, as long as your PS5 was connected to the internet, they could disable the demo on your PS5. Of course, that's not the first time that Sony has deactivated digital media, not to mention that the new PS5s have to have their disk drive connect to the internet in order to install firmware to activate. It leaves a lot of people wondering about the future of video game preservation and ownership. That's a whole rabbit hole in and of itself, and we'll dive into that in another video. That being said, if I can't play it, I'm very happy that nobody else can either. The demo itself seems to be awesome, at least according to everyone who's played it. It's set to offer around 90 minutes of gameplay, and save files will transfer to the final game, and it'll allow players to begin messing around with the game's skill tree. You can imagine that it's coming pretty soon. American pronouncing French name warning, but the developers also recently did an interview with Julian Ches that revealed a ton of interesting information about the project. The game features over 20 boss fights. These range from human size all the way to colossals, with combat being described as a mix between Nier Automata and Sekiro. And from seeing comments of people who did manage to play the demo, you'll be able to feel both the character action inspiration as well as the Soulsborne inspiration in the gameplay, with this game feeling like a middle ground between both. We also learn more about Sony's role in the development of this game, with them being responsible for such things as localization, as well as QA and communications, which allow the team to focus on the game's development. Stellar Blade would be announced a year into development in 2019. However, the deal with PlayStation was initiated in 2021, with Shuhei Yoshida seeing Shift Up's prototype of the game. At the time, they wanted to create a game that actually had a finite ending. Shift Up has been known for their mobile games, in particular Nikkei. However, they've never made a console game with a finite ending, and this is something that director Kim wanted to do with Stellar Blade. An interview with Game Informer had this to say: after playing Nier Automata, but before Kim, Lee, and the Shift Up team were diving into the minutia of making Stellar Blade, development began in 2018 with a much simpler desire to make a video game with an ending. During that time, development in Korea was predominantly focused on the mobile market, with few focused on console development, which led to some barriers. It was pretty tough to get all developers of console games into one team. Mobile games, they have their own, I guess, pros, because you get to enjoy the world that you love whenever you want. It continues on, and it's maintained constantly, but then there is a kind of market where only that kind of game exists, Kim says. That balance needed to be broken. Personally, I think it's incredible that we're seeing so many teams from South Korea focus on single-player games now. Last year, we also had Lies of P, a South Korean game inspired by Bloodborne, and I'm hoping that we see even more South Korean developers step into console game development. In terms of combat details, the article explains, quote, "Enemies will not wait for Eve to make a move, and she can defend, parry, or use evasive maneuvers. Countering enemies will put them in a groggy state, which opens the window to use combos or beta skills as Kim and Lee refer to them. There's also what's called the balance gauge, and if you succeed in consecutive parrying, you can deal a huge blow to the enemies," Kim says. Other combat options include assassination, ranged attacks, and more depending on the situation. Some solid confirmation that assassination kills will be something in this game. The balance mechanic is also something that isn't really new to action games, and it's something that when implemented properly, I'm a big fan of. Next, there's been a lot of questions about Eve as a character. A lot of people are wondering if she's an android or a cyborg, and the answer seems to be that Eve is more of a cyborg cyborg, as she is in fact a human being, with the interview saying, quote, "In the world of Stellar Blade, Eve is an airborne squad member from space, but she is human. She has a secret that distinguishes her from her coworkers, that Kim and Lee were not ready to share, but otherwise, she is at the same level as the other members of her squad." Kim saying, quote, "Humanity has been defeated by these enemies called the Netibas that appeared out of nowhere one day on Earth, and so humanity, they took this space elevator and they escaped to an off-world colony." Kim says, "That's where privileged humans live, and many have continued to survive on Earth, and Eve and her peers have come back down to try to take back the world from the Netibas." Of course, as is often the case in science fiction, not everything is as it seems. Eve is surprised to find humans living on Earth. Everyone was told there were no survivors. Of course, this is what leads many people on Earth to call Eve an angel, as she descends from outer space with a sword. As mentioned in a previous interview, there are choices that you can make in these side quests, and that alters the results of their ending, with Game Informer saying, quote, "For example, there is one series of consecutive side quests where Eve is trying to help a broken woman in an old pub in Zion, a location where humans have found refuge after the apocalypse. The woman used to be a singer, but now she is struggling to even stay alive. The missions Eve completes will help her recover mentally and physically, though Kim teases an unexpected ending. There are some choices that alter results," Kim says when asked if the player will be making story decisions in these moments. "But honestly, I wouldn't say you have much freedom, but there are certainly important decisions to make. So yeah, don't expect a Baldur's Gate 3 level of story choices here, but there are going to be some story choices. And while you won't have ultimate freedom in the game, there will be things that you can influence. In terms of the game's crafting system, I was somewhat shocked about what they had to say about weapons in this game. However, when you consider the namesake, it's not that surprising at all." Quote, "Kim used the term ingredients and recipes when describing certain costumes, but Stellar Blade won't have crafting new weapons. The Stellar Blade is Eve's only weapon. It can be improved to swing faster, deliver more critical hits, but they want players to fully focus on the titular sword." Obviously, the Stellar Blade is going to be really important narratively, so important that it probably wouldn't make sense to use any other sword. It's the namesake of the game, so you can imagine it's going to be incredibly important. Kim closes out by giving us one last tease about the story, with him saying, quote, "When the world experiences an apocalypse, people develop these uncanny religious tendencies, and it'll be interesting to see the changes in them. Stellar Blade is going to be one exciting science fiction narrative, and if you're a believer in what Shift Up is doing, you'll soon be able to invest in them, with the company set to go public soon at a projected valuation of $2.3 billion. The CEO is the largest shareholder, owning over 45% of the studio shares, with Tencent owning 24% of stake in the company. The number of shares scheduled for sales during the upcoming public offering is 7.25 million, with a par value of 200 won or 15 cents per share. With all this being said, what excites you the most about Stellar Blade? And don't say the thing that I think you are going to say. Say something else. Keep it interesting. Degenerates. And I'll see you all in the next video.